Pat joined us yesterday to give us a heads up on how that Tea Party was going to go in St. Paul, the government spending protest, I guess you could call it. And Pat joins me again today. Pat, you expected 6,000 people there last night. I read different numbers, anywhere from 2,000 to 8,000. What do you think?
Yeah, media estimates were anywhere from 2 to, we actually had some that we're talking about 10,000. So I think it was probably closer to about 7. We were trying to count heads and
well, that's not an easy job. They're all moving, you know.
We were trying to do it in sections, so there was an incredible number of people there. It was more than even we had expected, and it was a really successful event. Of course, the weather helped. It was it was
a beautiful night. Give me a sense for what was when you think about last night, other than the number of people that showed up. What sticks out in your mind as the one part of the event that we really nailed it there?
You know, all the speakers were, we did not allow any elected officials or politicians to speak whatsoever.
By the way, that was a good move on your part. Yeah, because it was a nonpartisan event, and I think it kind of, throughout the country, it ended up being that way. You had Democrats there, you had independents, libertarians, Republicans, they all were there, correct?
They all were, and you could see it in the messages, in the signs. The folks that spoke were, just citizens. They had a message. We had some vets speaking, some business people speaking, and the speeches were very well received. And everybody, this isn't just about it's certainly not just about taxes or even about spending. The Tea Parties are about the huge expansion of government, especially at the federal level, and the trampling on our liberties.
Well, let me ask you, Pat, because there's been a lot said about this today, and I read a bunch of it last night and today. There are certain organizations from the left side who are saying this was nothing more than the conservative elite organizing this in an effort to get their voice out. Your interpretation of what occurred last night in our state of Minnesota?
Well, that's absolutely ridiculous. There were 16 events around the state. They were all organized by volunteers. A lot of people, I had the opportunity to work on the St. Paul Tea Party, and the two co-chairs of that event had never done any sort of organizing. I think they were, at least one of them was a former Jesse Ventura supporter or voter.
Wow, that says something.
Yeah, it's these are new folks that are getting involved. I think people are starting to wake up, and they're going, hey, we are going to lose our country if we don't do something about it quick.
Let me just remind our listeners, 651-989-9226. Maybe you were there last night. Maybe you were in another part of Minnesota. As Pat points out, there were 16 other similar events throughout the state. I'd like to hear from you what your interpretation, impressions of that event were or are, how you feel the events were orchestrated, and if you think the message got out, give us a call here at CCO, 651-989-9226, 1-866-989-9226. That is our 830-WCCO number. Or text us. You can text us at 81807. Pat, as long as I've got you here, and while I'm waiting for some folks to call in here, do you think there'll be more of this?
Absolutely. There's Tea Parties that are already being talked about, planned around the 4th of July. I think this is a movement that's just going to continue to grow all across the nation. People are very upset. They're angry. We're very concerned about the future, about runaway spending, about inflation, and about really losing our sovereignty.
Problem is, and many can attest to this, is anyone listening? I heard Nancy Pelosi in a comment last night say, as I stated before, this is nothing more than the conservative, the far-right conservative, the very, what term did she use? Suits, I think, trying to thwart what the president is doing. So my question is anyone listening at the level at which something can change?
Absolutely. I think, we had direct experience here in St. Paul with the legislators. We created quite a ruckus, I think, over there. They were all in committee hearings, and there were emails going around about the event. We had many Republican legislators that came up and wanted to speak, even though we had turned them away earlier, and we said no, and they were I think, really surprised. This is it's different, very different for them to realize that, we're doing this on our own. The public wants our voices heard. We're not looking. We don't believe that that any politicians are providing leadership, and we want to make our voices heard about this.
Do you think that, again, much of this, it was a national sort of orchestrated protest. Do you think that the local lawmakers are listening when they're sitting down in our own state house deciding whether or not to raise taxes and how to spend our money? Do you think that events like this resonate with them?
I do. I think they were very surprised at the turnout yesterday. They were surprised at who was in the crowd. This was not a right-wing extremist crowd whatsoever. There were folks out there talking about legalizing marijuana with their signs, and so I think it's shocking, and I think there's a movement going on all across this country and here in Minnesota that is catching the politicians by surprise.
We're talking to Pat Anderson from the Minnesota Free Market Institute. She's going to give us a recap on the Tea Party in St. Paul at the state capitol last night. We do have a caller out there. I'm not going to take you just yet, John, but hang tough with us. Coming up after the break, we'll get your call. I think you have a question for Pat, so Pat, I want you to hang in there as well. Again, you're listening to 830 WCCO. I'm Randy Meyer. This is Midday Live. Getting some interesting stuff, some feedback on the Tea Party in St. Paul yesterday. A big crowd, anywhere from 2,000 to 8,000. Some say 10,000. We're going to settle on somewhere in between. Pat Anderson with the Minnesota Free Market joined us a bit earlier, and she's giving us a play-by-play of how it all went. We also have Steve on the phone from Ham Lake. And Steve, you have a comment or a question for Pat. What do you have?
Well, I'm opposed to tax increases like most of the people that went to the state capitol, but I don't think the DFL is going to honor that. There's going to be a showdown with the governor, and it's occurring already. What I'm wondering is that why the DFL or anybody else for that matter hasn't proposed, if there has to be a tax increase, to have it be temporary. That is, that there's an absolute sunset provision on it. I think the general public's fear, rightly so, is that once the money starts coming in from higher taxes, we're going to get locked into that forever.
I think you're right about that, and history would prove that presumption correct. Pat, and weigh in on this if you can. People, when they say a temporary tax increase, history will bear this out. They generally aren't temporary, and so when that term gets used, people are skeptical.
That's right, and I think the public, we've learned from past mistakes, but I think the public realizes that anything arguably temporary is never temporary, and so they're just not going to even go down that path. Yeah. The Democrats in the legislature want to expand government. This isn't, they believe in government. They believe that government knows best, and they're there to provide programs for people and to try to, take care of people. That's how they think. And so they truly do want, if they can increase taxes any way they can to expand government, they're going to do it.
Well, I think if there's an encouraging sign in any of this, Pat, it would be that people have not lost hope that their voice can still be heard. And that's why I kind of pounded that question home hard both yesterday and today, because I'm interested to find out if people are so fed up with not being heard by their government, whether it be Democrat, Republican, Independent, or whatever, that they just give up, that they don't show up to rallies like this, they don't give their opinions, they aren't passionate and enthusiastic about it.
Well, I think that people did give up a couple years ago, and now they're back. I think there was especially for those folks that are fiscally conservative, when you had the Republicans running the federal government and not being fiscally conservative, they went, what do I do? And so I think they did give up temporarily, and now things have gotten so bad, and it isn't just, I'm not just going to pick on the Democrats here, because the Republicans.
You're right. It's across the board. You can't argue anything else. Many Republicans throughout the country, both at the legislative level and common citizens, would argue that the Bush administration did not do its part to hold down government spending.
And Bush started the bailouts, and you could argue, well, it was financial. Well, he also started the auto bailouts, and so it's people are very, very, very angry and frustrated. And
is it a good time to be an independent?
I think it is. I think there's a lot of independents searching for somewhere to belong, and they're starting to, realize they belong with the folks that are out protesting in the Tea Party movement and other things. And I think you're going to really see a new realignment in politics.
All right, Pat, we appreciate you being here both yesterday and today. Good luck with your future ventures in terms of getting those people out there. And Pat is from the Minnesota Free Market Institute. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
All right, you're listening to 830 WCCO. More 830.